many current and former astronauts also on hand for the launch today. Leroy Chiao has been on the shuttle 3 times. He is a veteran International Space Station commander. He spent a total of 229 days in space. He joins us now live on the phone from Cape Canaveral. Leroy, thanks for joining us. We know there's a big audience there, plenty of VIPs on hand to witness the launch of the shuttle, certainly in contrast to launches in recent years. I know that morale at NASA is pretty low. Can you give us a sense of the mood out there today?
Well, yes. First, it's great to be with you all over there. Yeah, I am live right now at the press site at the Kennedy Space Center, and it's packed. I mean, there are people, veteran journalists say there are more people here than returned to flight after the Columbia accident. A lot of excitement for this mission. Morale at NASA, has been kind of low because of the uncertainty of the future. But today, I think everyone's pumped. Everyone is looking forward to a successful shuttle launch.
Mr. Chiao, isn't it ironic, though, that this is now all going to be privatized in the United States? I mean, that's sort of like privatizing the military. Why would we do such a thing?
Well, first of all, let me say that I am in favor of giving the commercial companies a chance to succeed. As you probably know, about almost 2 years ago, I was on the White House committee that became known as the Augustine Committee to review U.S. human spaceflight plans, and we came up with a sub-option that included stimulating some of these companies. But having said that, I have to say that these private vehicles, none of them, no vehicles, in fact, on the drawing board, can come anywhere close to replacing the shuttle. The shuttle is just the most amazing flying machine that's ever been built. If you think about it, it carries a crew of 7, carries a payload of up to around 50,000 pounds to low Earth orbits. It turns into an orbital platform, a superb research platform. You can do spacewalks out of the airlock. You can use the robotic arm for construction. There's nothing on the boards that can replace it, especially since it comes back to Earth, lands on a conventional runway, gets turned around in 100-some-odd days, and is ready to go do it again.
Leroy, sounds like pretty cool stuff. I know that you've also worked closely with other countries' space agencies. Can you give us a sense of how they're invested compared with ours, whether they've made up a lot of lost ground that puts our program at a huge disadvantage?
Well, the United States, we've enjoyed being the leader in human spaceflight for many decades now, except for the very beginning when the Russians were ahead of us. Once we landed on the moon, I don't think we've ever given up that lead. So now it's kind of, as you say, the other countries are coming up. The Russians are still continuing strong, and after the shuttle is retired, there'll be that gap, that at least 5 to 7 year gap where we're going to rely on the Russians to get to the International Space Station, we, the United States. Now, China's program is coming up nicely. In 2006, I was the first American to be allowed to visit their astronaut center in Beijing. Met several of their astronauts and have gotten to know the director pretty well. Their technology is very impressive. It's based on Russian technology. Of course, they had some help from the Russians, but they basically leapfrogged and made the next generation with what appeared to me to be very advanced avionics and technology. Now, what the Chinese lack is operational experience. They've only flown 3 missions since 2003. And so, and their longest flight was 5 days, so they really don't have the capability we do, but, they're coming up fast.
Mr. Chiao, from your perspective, is this short-term thinking on the part of the United States giving up our preeminent position in space flight, manned flight?
Well, from my perspective, it is. If you look at the overall U.S. budget, what would it have taken to keep the shuttle flying while we develop these other things? And the answer is that it would have taken an additional $1.5 billion a year in the NASA budget. That's a big number. That's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. But taken in the context of all the other things we're spending money on, to me, this should have been a higher priority.
All right, I want to thank you very much, Leroy Chiao, a former NASA astronaut. He's standing by at Cape Canaveral, as we all are, ready to watch the launch of the space shuttle.